Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about a very important developing story, and that is about the Afghan peace process. As we all know that the Afghan authorities, they have arranged along with the other stakeholders including Pakistan, China, Russia, Qatar, Iran, as well as America, obviously it is on board. The Taliban, they have refused to attend the summit on Afghan peace in Turkey. Now, what are the reasons? What exactly is happening on that front? And at the same time, Russia has been warned by the Western world that they should not deploy troops along the Ukrainian border, as the situation is also getting pretty fluid out there. But again, there is a lot of conflict of interest, as we all know, whether it's about Crimea or it's about Ukraine or it's about the Black Sea. That is where the problem seems to be. Now, that is another developing aspect. Plus, what sort of a connection these two could have? That is another important factor. So today we'll be talking about the Afghan peace process, and let me tell you about the main points that we'll be talking about. The Afghan Taliban refused to attend a major summit on the Afghan peace process in Turkey if it took place this week. The militant group spokesperson said Turkey is hosting a crucial meeting this month with the United Nations and Qatar as part of a US-backed push to jumpstart the Afghan peace process. The second important area is about the United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken arrived in Brussels for the second time in 2 weeks to consult with NATO allies as a deadline looms for a US troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Remember that the deadline given was May 1st by the Trump administration. Further, the US Chief of Staff General McCallum says that I know there's a lot of interest in what is happening in Afghanistan, and you know the administration is leading with policy. They are going to shape it with diplomacy, and then the military will execute those orders. There's multiple contingencies, and once those decisions are made at the highest level, we'll be ready to execute. Then again, regarding Zalmay Khalilzad completed a productive 4-day visit to Kabul. He met with government and political leaders, civil society activists and the diplomatic community to discuss preparations for the upcoming Istanbul conference, and he left Kabul today. So a lot has been happening on that front, and to talk about this, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Yasir Janjua Saab. Yasir Janjua Saab is a senior analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
And in a little while, we'll also be joined in by Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal Saab, expert in foreign affairs and international relations. And on Skype, we have with us Ambassador Qazi Humayun, senior diplomat. He has served as an ambassador to Afghanistan. Sir, thank you very much for your time as well. But Yasir Janjua Saab, if I may start from you, sir, now everything seems to be very much on course. But certainly this particular issue that the Afghan Taliban, they do not want that the Istanbul summit should be held this week. Rather, they prefer it should be held on 16th or onwards. What's the major reason for that?
My take on this is as following. If you remember, in the last few months, this is the third major summit on the Afghan peace process. The first one, if I may say, happened in Moscow, and the Taliban were invited there. The second one happened, I think, 2 weeks ago, or maybe a week, 10 days ago, and that happened in Dushanbe, the Heart of Asia Istanbul process. And the Afghan Taliban were missing from there. So there is some mistrust in Afghan Taliban about the whole peace process, whether they are being taken on board and their demands are being met or not. So they think, or they assume, that a solution is being bulldozed upon to them, which they are not happy with. There are certain demands about women's rights and human rights and the form of government, the interim government. All those are the issues that the Afghan Taliban are not happy about. But more importantly, and this is my take on it and based on my research and my sources, Americans want to take a leading role in this peace process because they want their troops to withdraw from Afghanistan. You've just mentioned about Russia. You've noticed in the last few days and weeks, there's been a lot of movement between Pakistan and Russia, and a lot of warming up of relations. That's one aspect of it. But I want to say this in public, that if Russia is not on the table, a lasting peace agreement on this issue
It's not
purely
possible.
bulldozed by the Americans may not be a reality, because the Afghan Taliban have misgivings about the US as well,
That's correct.
and there is mistrust as well. So they want some neutral party, counterbalancing force as well, and nobody could be better than Russia or China. So they are not very keen on any process that does not get their demands accepted, and everybody else pushes them into a corner to get the demands accepted. They have said we are reviewing the proposals for this process, which is, they say, 10 days, because the Americans want to make sure that by the 1st of May, the American troop withdrawal starts, or that process starts. The Taliban are very keen on getting their demands accepted before that happens. One of the things is they don't want an interim government headed by Ashraf Ghani. So all those things, Taliban are taking their time, and they want to basically dictate.
And Ashraf Ghani is not ready to step down either. Neither he is interested in any interim government.
Yes, but his authority is limited to Kabul only right now. He's growingly not very popular now, and his authority is limited to Kabul because they think he's an American puppet. Taliban do not want to deal with any interim government which is headed by Ashraf Ghani. The Americans are talking about an interim government.
Headed by Ashraf Ghani or anybody appointed by the Americans? Let's put it this way.
There you go. Headed by the Americans, because they don't want the Americans to take, once they are exiting, the Taliban say, if you're leaving this country, why are you so keen on making sure who's going to do what? You leave it to ourselves and we'll manage it. But Americans still want to retain some kind of control. And that is what is not sitting well with the Taliban. So what I'm trying to say here is that for a lasting peace agreement between the Taliban and the stakeholders, Taliban have to be on board and the key stakeholders have to be on board.
I mean, that's very well explained. Now, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab, and thank you so much for taking out your time. So, Dr. Saab, since we were talking about the Afghan peace process, and now things seem to be, taking a different turn, different shape altogether. The Taliban, they have refused to attend the Istanbul summit. They say that if it is held this week, we won't be a part of it. Maybe they want more time, and maybe 16th April onwards, they are ready for that. First of all, sir, what's going wrong rather than what's going right at the moment?
I think that already Yusuf has rightly pointed out, and I second whatever was said earlier. It's important when we look about this transformation. First of all, if we start expecting that this crisis will be resolved sooner, I think it's a misjudgment or erroneous conclusion. But of course, when we are focusing on the Afghanistan situation, Taliban has been gaining more and more space.
Correct.
In this dialogue process. They are very close with the Russians today as compared to the previous years, especially starting from 2018 onward. Russia has demonstrated very clearly that it is not going to permit anyone to play their role or minus Russian role in their neighborhood. So that's why they are very much active, and we have noticed this thing in the Moscow summit. Second important thing is that your question, what's went wrong? Of course, since last year, it's almost 1 year now, more than 1 year, anything has gone right on the interim government or on the setting or on the departure, everything. In fact, that deal was constituted for the sake of the American elections. Trump administration was interested, hurry, and after the election, Biden administration is going to take more time without changing the principal stance of withdrawal. No, it will take its own time. So they are also not hurrying. That's why he said that it's too difficult to withdraw on 1st May. And even they have not started to withdraw. There's no indication that the withdrawal has started or some kind of a thing. Second is that when they say interim government headed by whom X, Y, Z, if the Americans are, or if they start moving out of it, stepping out of it in a more tangible manner, instead of rhetorical, then I think that the Afghans will start more seriously heading towards the, what you call it, interim government. Then they will find out the interim head as well, a consensual head. If they are not moving out, Ghani is dragging it, everything is in the status quo situation, expecting from the Afghan, maybe think hypothetically, if they
Now,
said,
sir, if I may intervene, I was just told by my producer that there's a breaking story that, according to AFP, and they say that the conference is now scheduled from 24th till 4th.
yeah.
So
it
I think
is
that is going to be acceptable to them.
because in the Taliban's, when they said that we are not prepared to participate on 16th, but later on we are willing. So they didn't say
no.
They did not completely rejected this process, but at the same time they gave their own terms. If the conference has gone from 24th and if the Taliban participate on 24th, first of all is that they are now it has
So you believe that
demonstrated-
this is going to be an important one?
yeah, no, from the
From their
Taliban perspective, Turkish government or the host or the other stakeholders realized that without their participation, what is the use of this conference practically? So that's why my understanding, pessimism is based on that unfortunately there is no tangible outcome in the last 1 year, which give us this kind of a hope that some sort of happening. But on the other side, why we are still optimistic? Continuity of the dialogue. If you are continuing the dialogue, stakeholders are there, everyone is realizing, spoilers are now, you can say, moving a little bit in the process on the backside. So we have to, that is the optimism
All
as
right.
well. Finally, we are taking this Afghan withdrawal just like the troops captured and then they ordered and they moved back. No, it's not like this. Americans have their 2 decades investment in the form of contractors, in the form of infrastructure, in the form of their future. So how Americans can leave this country, which is a hub pivot in this Asian, you can say Euro-Asian setup, and with the increasing their tension on China, with China strategic competition, let's say I put like this way, with Russia, are they leaving from their backyard so easily? It's unthinkable.
It doesn't make sense, actually.
It doesn't make sense.
Now,
Strategically
coming to you, Ambassador Qazi Humayun Saab. Now, I am sure you must have heard what the gentleman in the studio just said. Now, sir, first of all, your take on the same issue. And secondly, now we have also learned that NATO is trying to exert a lot of pressure on the Russians regarding the Ukrainian issue, the Crimea issue primarily. And now it seems that, since the ball is in the Asian court, I suppose, as compared to the Western court, things are getting pretty interesting out there in Afghanistan. And now, according to the latest report of AFP, the new scheduled dates for the Istanbul summit, they are from 24th to 4th of May. Your take, sir?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this show. My 2 colleagues here in the studios have made some very important points, and I'll carry forward from there.
Okay.
The general perception is that the Biden government finds itself in difficulty, and they're not happy with the agreement which Trump administration had reached with Taliban. And as Dr. Jaspal mentioned, that it was partly in view of the forthcoming elections. The developments after that, as the American Secretary of State has made some proposals, one feels the impression which is coming in the press and from different sources that there's a desire on the part of the American government to sort of renegotiate the framework of the agreement. The Trump administration had committed to a time-based withdrawal. They seem to get on to a condition-based withdrawal. And the perception is that they want a 3 to 6 months extension for withdrawal. One must take into consideration that public opinion in America is in favor of withdrawal. But the government has other objectives in the sense that they are a superpower and they have strategic interests. And they want the withdrawal to be smooth and sort of least damaging to the American image and so on and so forth. The Doha Agreement was basically because there was the understanding that there cannot be a military solution, there has to be a political solution, and it was there to break the stalemate. But certain understandings had taken place. And as a result, the Kabul government and their own supporters, have delayed the negotiations. The Taliban are also they're also a hard nut to crack. They have inflexible positions. But the fact remains that Taliban are too strong to be totally eliminated, but too weak to take over the Kabul government.
That's a very, very important point.
So there's a continuing stalemate. And how do you handle that stalemate? And how do you handle not Taliban only, but the general perception, having dealt with the Afghan issue from the Foreign Office and having dealt with it as ambassador to Afghanistan, they take fairly inflexible positions. And it's a tribal society deeply steeped in religion. One should not go by the images that one sees when you just visit Kabul, because Afghanistan's tribal society has a lot of impact, on the polity and so on and so forth. So in the proposals, the United States has also talked about, changes, where I said that in the framework agreement that they've reached with the Doha Agreement, like they want to involve the Afghan government in reduction of violence, ceasefire, review of sanctions. Then they're talking about a high council of Islamic jurisprudence which will guide the government and the judiciary. And the decision of the Supreme Court of Afghanistan would be the final decision. They have also talked about a 21-member commission to frame a new constitution in which Taliban reportedly will have a strength of 10. Okay. Also, they have decided, or they put in the proposals to remove military structures. Taliban should remove their military structures from neighboring states and end military relations with foreign states. Now, the structures that they're talking about, there's a oblique reference or obvious reference to Pakistan. And there are other countries which have been evidently helping the Taliban in their war against the United States. So these are not easy issues to be reconciled. But of course, what they've done is, instead of revoking the Doha Agreement, they've gone via the United Nations and tried to enlarge the canvas and try to bring about a consensus in a manner that if the Taliban may not agree, but the other countries agree to a delayed withdrawal or other conditions which would dilute the Doha Agreement, that would be very favorable for the US establishment and the US government.
I think very important points raised, yeah?
Sorry?
Yeah, I think these are very important points that you have raised, sir.
Yeah. So, therefore, it's a uncertain situation. We don't know how. I mean, the fact that Taliban, the UN has extended the conference to the last week of April may be helpful as far as Taliban acceptance of the invitation is concerned, but that brings it very, very close, a week from 1st of May's date or a few days. And therefore, the perception takes further strength that the United States is not likely to withdraw by 1st May, which was the commitment. But if they want to do not want to totally revoke the agreement, they may go in for some partial withdrawal. And the other factor is that NATO has 10,000 troops and there are a lot of contractors which are serving there.
And sir, NATO has very categorically mentioned, Mr. Stoltenberg said, we will withdraw or we'll decide when the time is right. And I do not exactly know what did he mean when he said the time is right, because time seems to be, you know, the main issue. But sir, if you allow me, let me go back to my guest in the studio. Now, a couple of very important points raised. A, the Taliban will never have a contact with any state. I mean, they're pushing Pakistan, they've been pushing Pakistan to contact them and to bring them on the negotiating table. And then finally, once we did all that, now another, you know, sort of a pressure on them not to be in touch with any state. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Primarily, I think this is most likely on the behest of the Indians, that the Americans must have added this kind of a point. Second, sir, when you talk about even, let's suppose if they have got 10 members out of those 21, and you're talking about the military training, you're talking about so much more. And I'm sure instead of the Americans, the regional powers would do it. It could be Russia, it could be Pakistan, it could be China. So how can you not be a part of that deal where you're interacting with the rest of the states? I mean, it is not possible. Or is it?
Before I answer this question, you talked about the breaking news about the 24th of April summit. Try to see this from the angle of Afghan Taliban. And as Ambassador Rahmani Saab was also saying, and Jaswal Saab was also mentioning, the Afghan Taliban want to deal from a position of inflexibility and they want to remain at the driving seat.
Correct.
So they want to give a message to the Americans, look, you wanted to meet on the 16th of April, look, we'll dictate and we'll decide when we want to come. And that's why they've said 24th. And why 24th? Because Americans wanted that before the 1st of May, we'll probably reach an agreement and we'll say, all right, we're leaving on the 1st. So that's not happening because Taliban have extended the date by 24th, and it's a 10-day conference or a 10-day meeting. Now, coming over to the part that you're mentioning about that they will not have relations with any other state, as I told you in my first intro, the enemies of yesterday are becoming friends of today. Pakistan and Russia could never imagine in the last Cold War times to be friends or to be strategic partners. Now Russia is talking about strategic partnership with Pakistan, and I'm privy to some conversations because they have not yet been made public, so I'm not going to talk about them, but there is a great level of warming of ties between Pakistan, and so is between the Russians and the Afghans. So the Afghans, per se, how can you dictate to them that you will not talk to the Pakistanis or you will not talk to the Russians or you will not talk to anybody who's your next door neighbor, whereas America is sitting thousands of miles away.
And those states who have got genuine concern.
So, and you've seen in the past this peace accord that, as Dr. was also mentioning, that was signed in Doha in February last year. It was only possible by Pakistan's efforts. When Pakistan was brought to the negotiating table, when Pakistan was brought to those trilateral meetings between the US, between the Taliban and Pakistan included, only was then this, and then obviously Pakistan did not want to claim, oh look, we've done it, so we let the Doha peace accord happen in Doha, but essentially it was done, the most of the groundwork was done by the Pakistanis. And nobody can forget that. And Indians, they can try continuing Indians have to wake up to the reality that they are actually about to lose Russia big time, because Indians should have chosen one boat and stayed in one boat. Indians thought we can stay in two boats, and this is why this is not going to work for them. But Indian strategy of keeping Pakistan outside this equation of Afghan peace,
it's not
possible because if you see the geography, Pakistan is next door. Peace in Pakistan is directly related to peace in Afghanistan. Peace in Afghanistan is directly related to peace in Pakistan. So they are interlinked, and there are families which are living across the border. So you can't just build a wall between Pakistan and Afghanistan and say, look, Pakistan will never deal with Afghanistan. Pakistan government has now introduced electronic visas and all sorts of measures so that Afghans can travel freely as long as
Afghan transit trade, bilateral trade, so much has been done.
This,
I remember
if somebody is trying to bulldoze this idea that the Afghan Taliban make this part of the deal, that they're not going to deal with Pakistanis or anybody, as a matter of fact, that's not going to fly.
Now, a couple of very important points again. So one is, everybody talks about the Afghan peace process. Everybody wants, so-called, that there should be proper system prevailing in Afghanistan, no more killings. So two important areas. One, we were all very much afraid of this spring offensive, and that is a normal gesture every year by the Taliban when they launch attacks. Again, now this is the holy month of Ramadan starting from tomorrow. So, Dr. Saab and the Taliban, they really respect it, and they always announce for a ceasefire or a limited, attacks perhaps on the Afghan forces. So this is going to be regarded, I'm sure. Number two, sir, when you talk about the overall role of Taliban, Ambassador Saab mentioned that they are not too strong to take over, and they are not even too weak to let go. So now, how do you see that equation? So that is a very interesting part.
I think that ambassadors have very rightly pointed out the balance of power or equation between the Afghan Taliban and the others. We are here missing two things. In the last 2 decades, in the Afghan civil military establishment or bureaucracy, and especially their intelligence, the recruitment was not from the Taliban areas.
Not
the
at
recruitment
all.
was from the northern part or that kind of a thing, which was a minority, but 80% presentation in that. They were trained in India. They were trained in the United States. Today, neither India nor United States has a direct foot or acceptability in the Afghanistan. Though Americans' money dole in, without that the Ghani government cannot survive. And this new development, what happened, I mean that $400 billion US Iran, Sino-Iran strategic cooperation, it will be further alienating, or you can say distancing these two states from there. Indians' vision of this northern transport corridor with this port, actually that was a Hillary Clinton's vision. That miserably failed, $21 billion US from Chabahar, Kandahar, going upward, Hajikak, and these kind of sort of things. Afghanistan is in a new sort of things, but the problem is, we here forget sometimes. The reality is that in the United States today, Biden is in power. And Biden was vice president prior. And this Asia-Pacific pivot strategy was, or you can say rebalancing strategy was conceived at that time. And from that time
When Obama
onward,
was in power.
yeah. So he is also a reflection of American established old guards. Trump was a different kind of a personality, different way of thinking, but he is you can say, a carrier or more of a status quo oriented and last decades policies continuity, but situation is not favorable, which the Americans have failed to, they realize it, but they have to evolve themselves with it. You know that sometimes you see the things happening, you make a decision, yes, this is happening, but your body and that is not reflecting. The American establishment is very much, you can say once again, a handicap, how to adjust it with the new situation, not only in the global politics, but Afghanistan particularly. These are all hurdles which we are going to see. You rightly pointed out spring, you can say, offensive, and Taliban are ready to show their power. Maybe in the month of Ramadan they will delay it, but spring will continue for them after the 15th May.
After Eid, yeah.
And I fully concur, and this is a very important point which we have to not miss. 24th to 4th May, if this Turkey dialogue continue, for one, what will be the nature of 1st May? It means that if the Americans fails to give a tangible, then this deal was more or less over, and then the
But
NATO.
Dr. Saab, this is not possible.
And
Leaving on the 1st
no, but
of
you,
May.
you have to give some kind of
Like what?
indicator.
For example, what?
Indicator is that you start
Set another
moving,
date.
you start rolling out, you stay, okay, you people. When we say Afghan, let Afghan own, let the Afghans decide what Pakistan has started thinking. And that
But
was
Ashraf Ghani would not.
no, when the
Prove that,
Americans, look,
because
when the Ashraf Ghani
The moment
realized,
the Americans are gone, he is gone as well.
no, he will be maybe with those military convoys, he will be leading them to leave the because they don't have a power
He'll be on
there.
the same plane?
Look, this is not and the way these things are happening. For example, when Pakistani delegation was visiting, they said, oh, there is a insecurity at the airport.
Exactly, I was coming to that.
That was who created this. Taliban cannot create an insecurity when our delegation is visiting. And secondly, why they say that Taliban should not have, in 2018, the broker first time on the table, Afghan government representative and the Taliban representative first time met in Moscow. So why we have a short history and short memories in that context? Why we try to distance ourselves from these kinds of things and come up with a new notion? Yes, but now, look, we have to take Afghanistan situation as well as the global strategic competition together. If we try to de-hyphen them, then it seems possible what we are thinking, what we are optimizing these things. But if we can link together, then we have an unfortunately pessimistic outlook. The reason being that if the Americans are saying our number one threat is China and Russia, read the DoD documents.
Oh, yeah.
And number two is terrorism.
Top two
then
adversaries.
Afghanistan, if this China and Russia, Afghanistan, how they can move out? If the Chinese, in the Chinese literature, though my American, you can say, I wrote a piece on this Quad, and my American friends have started saying that, oh, you are too harsh. I use basically a term which is in the Chinese strategic literature, Eastern, you can say Asian NATO. Quad, they interpret
Exactly.
So, and the Americans are not ready to help. On the
But
other
this is
side,
exactly what
the
is
NATO
happening, sir.
Secretary General is saying that we do not leave Afghanistan. So, in how we are assuming or expecting, so Americans came in Afghanistan with the power. They will leave with the power. With the power of the Taliban or the Taliban allies or indirect asymmetrical warfare.
Face saving.
So,
basically.
no. Face saving was there when they signed the agreement. They are in touch and in contact with the Taliban since 2014. And now, formally 2020, they have no agreement. Now they are dragging. They are not implementing. Taliban are ready. If you see in the last 6 years, 2014 June, swap of prisoners, from that date to date, Taliban's demands have been accepted.
Most of them.
And it confirmed in the asymmetrical warfare what the weaker party says, that time is on our side, their watches. So Taliban rightly pointed out, you have watches, we have a time. So they are moving with this. Why we expect them that they are tired of this? Yes, society is fatigued. Society is at the same time looking forward. Afghans need, we are in a fatigue, but what we did it, we now started managing the border. Sooner we come out of this fatigue. So these are the things which the international analysts or the American policymakers are failing to acknowledge.
Now, another important point that I would like you, Ambassador Saab, to throw light on is about the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, who arrived in Brussels, and this was the second time he went there in weeks to consult with the NATO allies and deadline for US troop withdrawal. Now, as I earlier had asked that NATO obviously is going to follow what the Americans would do, but at the same time, the NATO Secretary General, Mr. Stoltenberg, very clearly mentioned about this when the time is right. So, sir, let's throw light on this aspect. What exactly did he mean by that? And on top, if you have to explain the time is right, sir, the time, again, as Dr. Saab said, that they have the time and they have the watches, but I think time is really important, sir. That is what it seems like at the moment.
Well, my understanding, the timing is not right for the Americans and the Western alliance to withdraw from Afghanistan. He may have used the word time, but I think what he means is the conditions. Total, from their point of view, to think about the future in this area. And United States has concerns as a superpower on many areas. There is the Iranian nuclear program. United States also has a very strong continuing reservations on Pakistan's nuclear program. Then the US is more or less in confrontation with China on multiple issues. So these factors also, although they are not being stated openly, from the U.S. government, but obviously they're taking all these factors into consideration. And Afghanistan, their military presence in Afghanistan is a very important factor in sort of their ability and capability to take decisions and to project their policies in this area, in this sensitive area. The Gulf situation and so on and so forth. So about Ukraine and Russia, of course, that's another dimension. But I mean, the spat between what the American president has said about President Putin and some other remarks, at that level, which is rather was unexpected from at least we who've been in sort of practicing diplomacy. They've been alien to our minds, but at that level, that kind of dialogue. So things are in a framework of uncertainty, and the review on Afghanistan adds to that uncertainty. The situation in Afghanistan since last several years is that the government there is controlled by the diaspora and the Tajiks. And they are very comfortable with the support of the American troops and NATO troops to be able to handle Kabul, and they brought up 300,000 troops and police. But that police, which is, as one of the colleagues mentioned, mainly comprising Tajiks or people from the north, they are not effective in the Pushtun areas. And therefore, they've not been able to eliminate the Taliban. Now, this again goes into tribal loyalties and the Afghan temperament to fight military occupation of their country, which is historically well known. I mean, the graveyard of empires, the three wars with the British imperial power, with the Soviet Union and with the United States. I don't think you need any further evidence on this issue, and there's then the unfortunate thing that this war in Afghanistan has gone on for 40 years. So, and the Taliban don't show that kind of fatigue. So you have to finally get to a political settlement with them. And I mean, if the United States goes back on the Doha Accord, then this will unfortunately become Biden's war. And what may follow therefrom is anybody's guess. But one thing is sure, that the Taliban have said that they will resume jihad, which for Pakistan is not a good omen, because we want peace and stability in Afghanistan. I mean, the 40-year war has had a very damaging and devastating impact on the situation in Pakistan.
That's correct.
I don't want to go into further details because the discussion will get very prolonged. But we hope that good sense will prevail, and if the Taliban join and some arrangement can be worked out where a political settlement can take place. We must remember that, and I think the United States and other countries who are dealing with this issue, they're very highly qualified and experienced people. The Taliban have not fought a 20-year war for two positions in the cabinet. They want, they want a major share of the power, and that they will have to sort of negotiate, and there has to be give and take, and ultimately, because they have control over 50 to 60% of Afghanistan, so they have to be dealt accordingly to bring the peace settlement about.
So last 2 minutes, I would like you to comment, and that is about a statement by the General, the Chief of Staff, And he says, the American, and he says that, okay, we have devised a policy which has a lot of contingencies, and then through that policy we'll devise the diplomacy, and then the military is going to execute. And at every level they have got contingencies. If not this, the contingency plan is this. Do you think, sir, this is the wise approach?
See, General McConnell, his statement is based on what directions he's seeing coming from the Biden government.
Exactly.
Trump had a different policy. Trump wanted to extricate from Afghanistan as soon as he could. The Democrats, on the other hand, were not very keen even then and now, but they have limitation that there's an international agreement or a peace accord that they have to acknowledge. So they are bound to do that, and they still want to do that, but they're not very keen to completely withdraw from Afghanistan. They want to stay there in one way or the other. However, in another forum, one of their ex-ambassadors was talking about the Americans now more interested in the Quad and the Indo-Pacific policy, but I don't buy that, because the Americans now know Russians are taking a lot of interest in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Gwadar, and in this region.
Exactly, and especially the recent visit of
the general statement I'm going to say, he's basically trying to cover his back that if the government decides we're going to stay, he's covered, because he said, all right, now we're going to stay. So he's covering, like we do in the military, we have plan A, B, and C. So he's saying, okay, if the government decides, or if there is no agreement with Afghanistan, we might as well stay there. So so that tomorrow he's politically correct that, yes, I said we're probably going to stay. We didn't say we're going to leave, you know. So he's trying to be politically correct, because nothing can be sure, one, that Afghan Taliban will not display their cards. Till the last moment, you don't know what they do. And maybe the government decides we want to have some presence there. So the general has been careful in giving a statement. I might have to stay back.
Very calculated one, yeah?
I might have to stay back, so I might as well tell the world, look, we might not be going completely. So you never know. It's as the ambassador was saying, and as Dr. Jaspal was also saying, I'm just going to mention one thing about the interest of Pakistan or the interest of India. In those 10-15 years when the Taliban government, Talibans were not represented in the government, or it was Northern Alliance-led government or US-imposed government, there was a complete Indian brigade of army training the people there in Afghanistan. And Pakistan was not represented, whereas most of Afghans speak the same language as we do. So it was easier for us or for them to ask us to train them.
But the better army,
it was the Indians. Yeah. Indian took the opportunity, but now
you can well see the results now.
And now they know if the Americans leave and Taliban-led government comes in, it's going to be Pakistan and the Pakistani army.
Perhaps that is one of the reasons they have said that Taliban will not be in touch with any state. And that doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not going to happen.
So, last minute.
2 points, Faisal. First of all is that, of course, a military commander will make a plan, he must have a contingency plan. So that is understandable. Second is that, which has very rightly pointed out, that Afghan, how you deal with this Afghan civil military bureaucracy recruited in the last 20 years. Talibans are not going to live with that. This is number 1. 2. Number 3, the Americans or the other stakeholders has to realize if the Russians and the Pakistanis can shake hand, the Taliban and Abdullah can shake hand very clearly. I have an echo of the Abdullah's speech at the Institute of Strategic Study, Islamabad. I was there. And what he said there, he said that when I met 2 brothers in the Doha, I said, you are my hero. And he said, and they said, you are my hero, because they were all in the jihad together.
And they were the 2 daggers drawn.
Yeah, during the jihad, but they again can shake hand against these puppet governments. So, and finally is that the point is that Americans and the others have to realize the people who are in the battleground, they are more, you can say, genius as compared to those who are sitting in the base or in the ear. Yeah. And Americans have always 2-pronged strategy. Those who talk about 4-pronged, that is identify and clear, they never go on the ground. And if you have to maintain a hold, then they have to go on the ground.
Well, sir, interesting times ahead. That's what I would say. But Dr. Saab, what a pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you so much, Janjua Saab. And thank you so much, Ambassador Saab. It was a pleasure having you as well, sir. And that's all we have for this. I'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow at 8. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Ramazan Mubarak to everyone, ji. Khuda Hafiz.